We're Earth Force. We are a national nonprofit and the home of Environmental Action Civics. In field chats, you'll hear research-based, actionable tips and inspiring stories of youth-adult partnerships that empower young people to become environmental decision makers. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get started.
Hi, my name is Vince Meldrum. I'm the president and CEO of Earth Force, and you're here with on the Earth Force podcast. And I am super excited today because one of my dearest friends in the service learning movement and someone I've worked with for like 10 days. No. 10 days for a very long time. And I'm just excited to have her on. They're doing some new great work. So this is Amy Meuers, and Amy is the president. Are you the president of NYLC?
CEO, president, whatever you want to say.
And has worked at NYLC for quite a while, 15 or 20 years, I would guess. I'm not going to say how long.
20 years, yeah.
Just over 20 years.
As long as I've known you.
Yeah, about the same time I've been here. So, so about that same. But Amy is doing some amazing work around redesigning what service learning can be and really rethinking the impact of youth voice and doing some great research around districts integration and how they do this kind of work. And so I'm really excited to have her on. But I'm going to give Amy a moment to introduce herself after that.
Wonderful. Thanks, Vince. As I interrupt you as you're introducing me, but yeah, I've been with NYLC over 2 decades now. Sometimes I can't believe it myself. I have held pretty much any role possible within the organization, but have been in the CEO role now for going on 10 years. And it's just my passion and my love for this work that keeps me going. NYLC has been doing service learning work, supporting youth leadership and youth voice for over 4 decades now. And so, yeah, I've been there almost half the time that the organization's been around. But we're really excited about helping reimagine what service learning can look like in classrooms, in after-school spaces, and really aligning it with democracy and helping young people see themselves as part of a democracy instead of having that be something far off in Washington, D.C. that they're very frustrated with.
Yeah. I'm going to take a little aside there because you said something that I think is interesting that I don't think people realize. I think a lot of people think of service learning as kind of this, it's a thing, right? It exists. But you guys have really been doing a lot of iteration and change and adaptation to it. And so you're making service learning move forward, right? Yes. In many ways.
Yeah, we're really looking at, so service learning is, it's an opportunity for young people to grow and learn, whether that's through academic curriculum, right? If it's in a classroom and it's in a science class and they're learning about the environment and their specific lessons that they're learning within that class, and then they're applying that learning to tackling a community issue. Or it can be an out of school and maybe they're focused on leadership skills or social emotional growth, or it could be communication skills, right? That they're learning and they're applying to addressing an issue in their community. And so over time, we've really learned to be more flexible with how service learning looks and shows up in different spaces. Originally, it was all about being in the classroom and very specific as a pedagogy for classroom instruction. And we still encourage that, but also now like to see it in places where young people can grow, learn, and lead through the service learning experience.
That kind of leads me, you guys have spent the last couple of years, based on our conversation, just spent the last couple of years thinking about how you want to modify service learning for the challenges and situations that young people find themselves in today. And you've developed a new model, a rearranging of the model. You used to use the
IPARD. It's the IPARD process. And yeah, what we found was that IPARD, it's a great model. People get it. It's pretty easy. It's investigation, planning and preparation, action, reflection, and demonstration, right? So that's your service learning experience as a young person. But what we were finding is that people were skipping a lot of what makes service learning such a powerful pedagogy. And so through Ignite, we really started to pull out, like, instead of investigation, we're looking at inquiry. So looking at inquiry of self, inquiry of community, looking at how you gather knowledge and educate yourself about the issues within your community, making sure that you're working in partnership with community, not just doing to community, navigating how you're going to take action. So working together, service learning has seemed to morph into this individual project that I'm going to do. And really at its core, it's about community organizing. It's about coming together to tackle a community issue. And so through this idea of navigating community, coming to consensus, building a strategy together, you're navigating the issue in a new way, instead of developing a project that you think or hope will do something to address the needs of your community. Then we want you to make an impact. So it's less about the service or the action, but what's the impact that you're going to have on the community? So really thinking about impact over action or hours. And then transform, right? You want to transform yourself, transform the community. That's where reflection, your evaluation, your measurements, all of those fun things come into play. And then elevate. How are you going to share what you've done, learn from what you've done, encourage others to engage in tackling the issue? So it's the IPARD process is in there, but we've really pulled it apart and really tried to strengthen the elements that really directly connect it to being a democratic citizen, in your community, where you're actually civically engaged through this process. So we're really, for us, we're looking at calling it, it's a framework for democracy service learning.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And the other thing I love is that, like us, you found these specific elements that you're like, dig in a little deeper here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hear you talking about how do you navigate the challenges in your community and ensure you're having a real impact on your community. And we're trying to get young people to do that as well, or we're trying to get adults to do that with young people. Same thing.
Yes. Yes.
Which is always one of the big challenges, right? Is we have to convince adults that kids can do this kind of work. And then once they actually see it, they're like, oh, yes, this is amazing and fantastic. And, everybody should do this.
Exactly. Well, and what's really interesting is when young people are trained in this, they apply it themselves. Like, it's a process that they can then take and apply it to other things. So that's where I think service learning is such an amazing tool, because yes, you can use it in a classroom for instruction or in an after-school program or in other spaces, but then young people understand this process that they can go through. And then when they're leading in a club or wanting to do something themselves, they're thinking about it in these stages, and it's transformative for them. Like, our young people on our Youth Advisory Council talk about, like, they use this in all different ways when they're approaching the issues they want to address. Like, they learn this process.
We're teaching them a decision-making process.
Exactly.
Right? As I listened to you talk about it, I was like, oh yeah, it's a classic. Find the problem, find the core reason of the problem, find the solutions that have the most impact on that problem, execute, so on and so forth. And so I think that's, we change it a little bit to be adaptable and fit for the needs of sixth graders or eighth graders or whatever we're talking about. But it's, in the end, it's a great decision-making process. One thing that I feel like I should say for those that are listening to this and have heard EarthForce talk so much about action civics or applied civics is that that these two things they're sisters,
Yes.
more or less. They're not huge definitions between them. And I think the action civics for us kind of took on when a lot of service learning practitioners, not necessarily service learning theory, but when a lot of practitioners went to, as you said, more doing a project with individual kids, we said, well, that's not quite
That's not
what
us.
we want to communicate, right? We want kids to do civic action. And so we went away from the service learning language. But I do have to say, Amy, and admission is that over the years, my staff have gone to your trainings and your stuff, and we've borrowed things.
Yes, we have borrowed things too. And always with attribution and recognition.
But there's been a lot of commingling.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Lots of commingling, lots of learning from each other. Yes.
Yeah. It's been, which has been really nice. It's nice to have that kind of step with it. So what's the next steps with Ignite? What are you going to do now that you've done this?
So the next step with Ignite, we will be sharing it broadly at the 37th Annual National Service Learning Conference. So we plan to focus and roll this out. Our trainings now have integrated Ignite into how we're teaching educators how to use service learning. And I think what I'm really excited about is the research that we're doing around this new framework. So we have a 3-year research project where we are working with K-12 school. Well, I shouldn't say K-12. We're working with high schools within the K-12 system. We have districts that we're working with where it's a 3-year study, and we'll hopefully this summer, we'll have some initial data that we'll be able to share out where we can show that service learning is actually changing young people's belief in democracy. So we know the research is there. We know it gets to those democratic skills, right? Like those civic skills. What we are looking at is, can we actually shift young people's belief, have them start to see themselves as part of a democracy, and that it's not this like thing that happens in that city in Washington, D.C., that it's actually on the ground. They can be part of it within their local community and see themselves as part of making real change at the local level. And so we're really excited that this framework, we're looking at actual research to put behind it. So that I'm very excited about. And then a couple of years from now, we'll have the final results we'll be able to share out. And it's been a while, quite frankly, since there's been some actual K-12 service learning research. So we're excited that there'll be some new service learning research coming out. And then I would share too, at the same time, we're also working with some universities to begin to update the K-12 service learning standards for quality practice. So these are kind of parallel paths. So releasing Ignite, updating all of our resources, trainings, the research that we'll be publishing, and then updating the standards at the same time for service learning.
That's fantastic. I love that. We're going to be having a standards conversation later this year as well around kind of the environmental applied civics stuff. And we would love to have you be involved in that conversation.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. I mean, again, they're like sisters. So so much crossover there.
Yeah, that's been one of the really nice things, I think, for us is that there's such a collaborative nature between us, especially, I'll say, since you've taken over NYLC. It's been there's been a lot of that, and I think that collaboration has been beneficial for both organizations over the years.
I agree. Yeah, there's so much work to be done. Right. And there's so much to learn from one another. That's why I say, there are resources where Earth Force has created it. It's amazing. Why should we recreate that when we can just, you have all of your resources kind of open source, just like we do. It's why create things that are working and also supporting each other. Service learning is we are obviously huge proponents of service learning. We love the work, but it's also not the only tool to help young people engage in meaningful change. And so if we are supporting young people in making meaningful change happen, and they're developing those leadership skills, they're finding their voice, they're finding their passion to make the world a better place, well, we need to support that, period.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Service learning is a great way to get there, but it's not the only path. And so that's why, like I say, if it's action civics, however we can support young people finding that passion and wanting to be able to make that change.
I agree completely with what you're saying. I'm going to put a but in there, though, which is you're not supposed to do. But I'm going to put a but in there. And the but is that I think what both of us have learned, and the research that we have, torn through over the years and everything, is that there are some essential experiences that people have to have, right? And it's got to be something the kids care about and they get to choose, right? Or the young people care about it and they get to choose. And if you miss that, you miss the basics of it. I think there are 2 or 3 things we would say that are those items.
Yes.
But you can get there in a different way, right? There are different methods to do that. And I don't think you and I would disagree on, maybe you have 4 or 5 and we have 3, but their overlap would be really high.
Well, that's what I say. There are standards for service learning. And when you integrate those standards, I mean, you're never going to be at the highest level all the time. But if you don't have youth voice, you're not doing service learning. Sorry, you can call it, but it's not, right? Yeah. If you're not doing reflection, then you're missing out on the learning. So yes, there absolutely. And there are, and we know when not done well, you can do harm, right? Young people can get turned away from having a service learning experience if it's not facilitated well. And so, not to take away from the quality of experiences, just saying that there are other quality tools out there like Action Civics, that are on the same.
I'm totally with you. I just think that what's essential is essential, regardless of what their kind of larger model is.
We're on the same page.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we try to remember and focus on, right? We work with a bunch of organizations that are taking what we've learned and try to adapt it, into what they're trying to do. And we often just say to them, as long as these 3 things, right? As long as you're getting those in there in some way, you're going to be okay. Right. And there are better or worse ways to do that. But as long as you're getting those in, you're doing that same thing. And then we had that same experience. You're referencing the old service learning research that if you don't have this certain level, you don't go through a certain kind of steps, the impact can be negative. And we had that same firm look at our evaluation. They took 8 years of data and they found, if you skip some of these things, it's not as good. Right. Yeah. And in some cases, it can be harmful. So we work hard to make sure that people get there, just like you guys do. Right?
Yeah. Same thing. Which is part of the reason why the new framework is because people were skipping the steps. Right. And so breaking it apart, calling out some of those essential things. It's if you want this end result, you want young people to come out on the other end with those civic skills, you've got to go through the full process. You can't just skip straight to action and do a short reflection and expect that the civic skills and that commitment to community is there. It's, if there's no youth voice, if you're not actually doing the inquiry and you're not coming to consensus on how you're going to impact the community, well, you're jumping straight to action. And I've said it many times. I'm not a huge proponent of service hours. It's a thing, but it's a checkbox. And so a service learning experience isn't about the checkbox. It's about really having young people discover who they want to be in our society, and showing up as a leader, as a change maker, sharing their voice, becoming engaged after the project is over, after that initial experience. So I think the service learning field has gone through lots of changes, especially over the last 20 years. And that focus on the individual and the hours have really kind of damaged, honestly, where the service learning field is at.
Yeah, I had someone come to me. You'll love this story. I mean, he came to me and he said, "We have already decided the project, so we're going to do the project and then go through the rest of your process." And I was like, "To what end?" Like, what
exactly. Exactly. Why should your students care?
What are they winning then? Oh, that was excellent. Yeah, that was a little kind of crazy, I thought.
Well, and just a little, like, I'm gonna do a plug for my own podcast because it's very different than yours. But
yes, please do. Yeah. It's on my list to plug later. So
it's the power of young people. So I interview young people about the change that they're making in the world, and I just got to say, as adults, if we come with the solution, like, here's the action, here's what we're going to do, guess what? The students are going to come up with something a hell of a lot more creative, more impactful, community-centered, something you've never thought of, right? And they can figure out how to get it done because they care about it, right? Like, they've identified it, so they're going to help figure out how it's going to happen. When we hand them a ready-made project, it's just a check mark again. Like, okay, what do I got to do to get my grade or pass this class or whatever? But they are remarkably, like, my mind is blown every time I interview a young person or a team of young people, depending on, who's joining me for the podcast. But I'm just blown away at the innovation and passion and the desire to, like, fight the fight. It's just, it's remarkable. Last night I interviewed 2 entrepreneurs who realized that there was nothing for young entrepreneurs out there, so they wrote a book. And, and we had an amazing conversation about leadership and entrepreneurship. And it's just, to me, when you empower those young people by providing that platform for youth voice, it's a game changer.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's such a good place to kind of sum up what we're talking about. So, Amy, I appreciate that. You've done me a great service that I don't have to do as plugging your podcast. How did they find it again? Did I hear that part?
Any of the app stores, so iTunes, Spotify, just look for The Power of Young People. And we've got 6 seasons. And like I say, if you're just looking for some inspiration and just want to feel good about where we're headed in this world, just listen to an episode. You'll walk away going, okay, we're in good hands.
That's great. That is excellent. And she's right, actually. It's such a fantastic podcast. And always, every time, it's a great group or a single young person who's making a difference. Mm-hmm. Well, Amy, thank you. It has been so good to catch up with you. And hopefully we haven't been too much old friend chummy so that everybody's like, oh, I can't listen to these 2. So hopefully
not. Well, thanks for having me on, Vince. I absolutely am just, huge fan of Earth Force and everything that you all do. And, continue to look for ways that we can bring service learning, action civics, however we can support young people to make that change. We're here to do it with you.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that as we go forward and we're thinking, Amy, both of us, is, what can we do for district leaders and such that want to do this kind of work?
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe future conversations around that.
Yeah, we can have a whole nother conversation about district-wide work. Happy to dive in there.
Excellent. We'll do that one next.
Sounds good.
Amy. I'm so excited about the new stuff that you're doing, and I'm so excited about your research and all the background stuff that you're doing. So thank you for everything that you do for, you're thinking of it doing for service learning, and I'm thinking of it as doing for the whole community. But I think thanks a bunch for everything you're doing.
Absolutely. Again, thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. As always, let us know what you think on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or earthforce.org/podcast. See you next time.